Right, good morning everyone. We're going to move on to our second keynote speech this morning. So it's my pleasure to introduce Maryam Rezaei. Maryam is Agroindustry and Value Chain Officer at the FAO Regional Office for the Near East and North Africa. She formerly worked in the Food Systems Group at FAO, and that was where I first met her in connection with setting up a project on nutritional life cycle assessment. And I've worked with her over the last 2 years to progress the agenda around this, and we're hoping that will continue into an FAO program next year. So we as LCA food researchers are naturally interested in the quantitative modelling of the environmental impacts of food products, and we get very excited discussing issues about allocation and consequential versus attributional LCA and so on. However, if we want our LCA results to be used to influence real-world decision-making, it's very important that we also think about the decision context in which we will be, or probably not us, but others will be using, interpreting, and so on those LCA results. And it's in this wider context of use of LCA that Maryam, who would be the first person to say that she's not an expert in LCA, has championed the relevance of more explicitly addressing in an integrated way the nutritional value and environmental impacts of diets, using life cycle assessment in order to support policy making. So that's what she's going to talk to us about today. I'm very much looking forward to hearing what she has to say, and the floor is yours, Maryam.
Okay, the colleagues online can hear me. I just want to make sure that people in the room also are hearing me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you very well. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, and my greetings from Cairo, Egypt. I'm sorry I cannot be there with you. First, let me thank the organizers for having me here to talk about better agri-food system policies and the roles of tools and approaches that can support more informed decision-making in the countries. As Sarah mentioned, that's the first thing that I would say, that I am not an LCA expert, not even close. And the topic is very new for FAO, but through our recent collaboration with the researchers and the group led by Sarah, we really see a great potential in using NLCA and LCSA in our development work. So this keynote is really trying to bring to you the perspective of agri-food system policymaking and where are we and how we are seeing now the landscape of policymaking in the countries. And I hope you can find some links with the work that you are doing in your field. But just if you allow me, I will keep my camera off when sharing the screen because my internet is a little bit unstable. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me just put it in a, I'm trying to, okay.
Yep, that's great, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So I will start by providing a quick overview of the core function of FAO for those of you who don't know us. Then I'll quickly talk about FAO strategic framework, a roadmap to transformation of agri-food system. And then I'll have a kind of deeper dive into food system, status of sustainability, transformation, and what do we what do we mean by trade-offs, and then I'll touch on the assessing sustainability and cases from FAO, including the one that Sarah was mentioning. So FAO is a United Nations specialized agency in food and agriculture. We have offices at global, regional, sub-regional, and country level, including one in Peru, by the way. Our core functions range from assembling and monitoring, improving access to data and information, to normative and standard setting instruments. We have various committees, including codex that you might know very well, to facilitate policy dialogues at different levels. And also we support institutions to develop and monitor and evaluate policies and program and leverage investments. We also facilitate partnerships and coalition for more sustainable agri-food system. We advise and support activities that improve uptake of knowledge, technologies, and good practices. That is very much aligned with the work that we have been doing on LCA. And last but not least, we advocate and communicate also the result of work at national, regional, and global level. So starting this year, the organization is really embarking on its new strategic framework to achieve more, what we say, efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food system for better production, but not only, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. And we stick to our mantra, which is leaving no one behind. What we call this 4 betters. So we look at all types of innovation, technology, data, information, science as enablers to achieve this objective. And these 4 betters represent the principle for how FAO intends to contribute directly to Sustainable Development Goal 1, 2, and 10, but as well supporting achievement of broader Sustainable Development Goals agenda and the 17 goal. This is because the 4 betters really reflect the interconnected economic, social, and environmental dimensions of agri-food systems. And we are trying to pay special attention to the poorest and most vulnerable, and to all forms of malnutrition, and addressing barriers in accessing food for healthy diet through sustainable agri-food systems. So for decades, and still to date, the focus of many countries and organizations have been on increasing yields and improving productivity at farm level to address the challenges of food security. But as you can see, the recurring theme when I was talking about FAO's work is no longer production only. The words food and agriculture have really undergone transitions over the past century, from traditional to most industrial practices, and with different degrees of development. Traditionally, we still see in most countries a sectoral approach has prevailed, and the main attention has been on primary production and economic entry points. So how I feed my population, how I generate more income for my farmers. And consumers were usually not part of the picture, and the social and environmental dimension were often let's say, insufficiently addressed. So this is why this sustainable agri-food system approach has emerged as an evolution from previous paradigms, and in response to these limitations. Here it is important really to clarify what do we mean in FAO by the term agri-food system. We conceptualize agri-food system, and we agreed on this term with our stakeholders and member states as compromising all people and the entire range of actors and their activities in food value chains involved in transforming inputs into outcomes. So from growing to harvesting, packing, processing, storing, marketing, consuming, and disposing of waste. And we believe food system operates within and is connected to the natural resource environment, climate, and economy and society. We see sustainability as a way to measure performance of agri-food system in delivering food and nutrition security, economic profitability for all actors, and also environmental and climate benefits. We really believe focusing on one part of the chain and system, we risk overlooking some root causes of many problems. As you see in the center of this diagram is people. We focus on poverty reduction and food security and nutrition, but for us to achieve that goal, we really look at actors, activities, and all the layers that you see going out, including the societal and natural elements. Now, through many kind of research and consultation, we know that navigating through this complexity requires a conceptual framework that enables diagnosis of complex food system problems. Because what we need really is to design context-specific interventions and innovation. No one policy and solution fits all the countries or fits all the stakeholders. And we could say that informed use of multiple approaches that exist is a new ambition for policy development. Here, I think it's important to unpack the main global trends that are affecting the way food is produced, distributed, and consumed to see the state of the situation and where the main challenges and opportunity lies, and even to see how and where our various work has to comply with these trends and respond to the needs. The first thing I want to highlight is that as all of us, you know, world population continues to increase. And by 2050, there are projected to be 2 billion additional people, mainly in Africa. What does that mean? That means that food demand is projected to continue to increase, though by how much, it will depend on consumer food choices, very much what Olivier was presenting, and also the ability to reduce food losses and waste. The other factor I wanted to mention is urbanization and its connection with rising income and lifestyle changes. Through our work in FAO, we see that rural depopulation and rural-urban immigration is a major trend impacting farming systems, with implication for agriculture, such as labor constraint, shifting gender divisions of labor, and favoring labor-saving practices. And also, looking at urbanization, growth of the small and medium-sized towns contribute to the revitalization of rural areas and have an important role to play in food processing and marketing. We have seen that urbanization also contributes to changing diets, increasing demand for processed food and more resource-intensive food, such as meat and dairy products and so on. And then there is another issue of another mega trend of globalization, which is a combination of the emergence of global food firm as well as the trade liberalization. But instead, kind of increased concern about labor condition and environmental cost of this globalization, and also traceability and origin of the food and reliance on imported food products has created a pushback towards promoting local food system. And during the pandemic, we really saw that very prominent in the country's request that can we just, look inside, look to strengthen our local food system. And lastly is the pressure on natural resources. Agri-food system continues to overuse the natural resources, including water, forest, land, And also, as you know, and it's always clear, and it comes clearly from the science that many contemporary food systems are key drivers of climate change. And at the same time, disproportionately, of course, affected by adverse impact of climate change. And along with this long-term trend are forces that can drive changes in systems. Those forces are innovation and disruptive technologies. Now we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution that has also affected food and agriculture. Another very interesting and kind of up-and-coming discussion is the shift of power dynamic, mainly as a result of corporate retail gaining more control and dictating the standards. And also natural disaster and transboundary pests and disease, including the COVID-19. So within this context, we know that the world is not on track to achieve food security and nutrition targets, and we are indeed going backward in eliminating hunger. This is our mandate as FAO. But at the same time, more than 2 billion people suffer from overweight and obesity, and 3 billion people cannot afford a healthy diet. Gender and economic inequality and conflict are exacerbating these problems, because food systems are by far the world's largest economic system, measured in terms of employment, livelihoods, and planetary impact. And well, this is very familiar to all of you as well, that food system, and I mentioned it before, that food systems are fueling climate change and natural resource degradation. So we have seen multiple challenges that food systems are facing, and many important questions need to be addressed. How to eliminate poverty and reducing all forms of inequalities by 2030. We have only 8 years to go. How to reduce agri-food system footprints on land, water, greenhouse gas, and biodiversity. How to prevent transboundary and emerging agri-food systems threats. And in this context, business as usual is no longer an option. Like, we cannot just stick to our sector or do business as we have been doing. We need to transform not only our agri-food system, but also the way that we work. So there is a need for food system transformation, but the transformative change that we envisage will look like this. Will ensure access to healthy diet, bringing people out of poverty, and foster inclusive economic growth, and protect and restore ecosystem and biodiversity and natural resources. And this is not a wishful thinking. We can do it if we really work together. So when dealing with this level of complexity, we should be mindful of trade-offs. And the fact that interventions in one area could risk creating or exacerbating problems in another. That's basically the reason, one of the many reasons that we turned into the researchers working on tools such as LCA and NLCA. Any change in a system will affect differently the different actors and outcome. And addressing trade-offs between these competing economic, environmental, and social objectives requires negotiation between different communities, actors with various perception, interests, resources, and power. Scientific data and information are critical for decision-making. However, we really do believe that science is rarely sufficient by itself to lead to policy change and implementation. Even if, similarly, even if appropriate institutions and policies are in place, we have seen that their functioning in practice is often a challenge. And in many settings, the capacity to manage such trade-off is limited by what I was mentioning before, asymmetries of power and social and gender inequalities in access to resources and decision-making. So this limits policy choices and leave behind weak policy implementations. Balancing different objectives and addressing trade-offs means making difficult choices with the potential of producing winners and losers. The decision-making has a strong technical implication, but it is, in the end, fundamentally a political process as well. So here you just see very, very few examples of the conflicting objectives that we are facing in our work. And we have been talking about it a lot with Sarah and the team when designing the new, the second phase of the program that I will get to. So some of the questions are really how we are going to increase agri-food output, but at the same time reduce the greenhouse gas emission, how we are going to increase employment, but at the same time also increase wages and reduce income inequalities. And the list goes on and on. So that shows that holistic approaches to sustainability, but also holistic approaches to whatever we do is important. A food system approach is about adopting a more holistic way of thinking and working. And it starts with taking a step back to look beyond a specific focus area to understand the broader system and objectives and improve the performance of food system to deliver not only on one dimension, but as much as possible on multiple sustainability dimensions. And we believe that a system approach to food sustainability assessment facilitates shift from silo to holistic approach, but also a shift from a short-term ad hoc solutions to a longer-term vision. And we have seen in a few countries that we have been dealing with after the UN Food System Summit, it also improved the capacity of countries for proactive policy action rather than reactive. And this takes a consultative process involving all the stakeholders, from policy to research to NGOs to the food system actor on the ground. So just having a quick overview on how these approaches to sustainability assessment can be used in a stepwise manner as we do it in FAO. First, we look at assessing the performance of food system, which helps us identifying potential synergies and reveals trade-offs between the sustainability outcome. And then, I mean, in parallel, we are really trying to use the data and information to understand performance of the food system. And it helps us analyzing what is not working, as well as what are the areas of greatest potential for improving system performance. So what are the constraints and what are the leverage points that with minimum resources, we can make the biggest impact. And also it helps bringing stakeholders together around evidence and data to jointly define a set of solutions that can have impact at a scale. And finally, we are trying, obviously, to improve performance through holistic analysis, but also through changing behavior and perspectives. To implement this three-step approach and for accurate decision-making process to improve sustainable agri-food system policies, we need neutral and science-based tools to enable analysis of interdependencies and trade-offs. We also need robust data and evidence. What we have been trying to build through the work on LCA to minimize trade-offs and ensure longer sustainability impact in our response to the country needs. There are already many great work done to achieve this. Some of them you can see here, true cost accounting, done by many of our partners, multi-stakeholder consultative approaches like such as the dialogues that started as part of the UN Food System Summit, food system dashboard that FAO and Johns Hopkins University have been working on developing, and tools like NLCA, which I'll come back to later. In FAO, we have been working towards integrating various types of assessment tools and methodologies in our projects and program. Perhaps the one closer to this audience is the Livestock Environmental Assessment and Performance Partnership, for short FAO-LEAP. And as you know, this global initiative aims at building common ground to understand and assess environmental impact from livestock system. And also it tries to foster evidence-based climate action and environmental improvement for sustainable livestock. Please visit the LEAP website for more information. My colleagues who are, and there are my colleagues in FAO who are working on that, and if you need more information, they can provide. Another example of our work is on Food System and Land Use and Restoration Impact Program, which is funded by Global Environmental Facility, GEF7, and is operational in 27 country projects and on 8 commodities. These are the commodities that are responsible for a big part of deforestation. The focus of GEF projects and its previous cycles has been mainly on improving practices at production level, and not really looking at the supply chain and market dynamics and consumption patterns. But this year, we have started designing a methodology that looks at nutrition, value chain, consumption, and social aspect using integrated tools and approaches such as LCA, as you can see. We hope that this methodology helps to transform the food system around these commodities to deliver not only on environmental benefits, but also maximize their contribution to human health, prosperity, and inclusion in communities. And finally, is the work that is close to my heart, not as an expert, but as project coordinator, and frankly, an amazing learning experience. This report that FAO published in 2021 may be familiar to many of you here. It is a new area of work that we have started exploring the applicability of life cycle assessment for agri-food system policymaking. The objectives of this work when we started it after many iterations with different people was to identify the key LCA methodology, limitation, and contentions. I'm so happy Sarah is with me here because she's a lead researcher for this work and for the phase 2 of this work, and she can help me answer any question that you may have. And then also propose ways to develop a more robust and multidimensional LCA methodology. And finally, we really wanted to gain international recognition and uptake for a more robust multidimensional LCA approach. Very quick on the process and outputs, also to acknowledge the hard work of the 30 researchers who worked with us, volunteering their time, such as Olivier. We started this work last May and concluded the report in November 2021. We had various meetings and the report went through external and internal reviews, also in various divisions of FAO. And final report provided a guide on nutritional and environmental LCA for food items accessible to a wide range of food system actors and policymakers, because the audience of this report were policymakers with some understanding of LCA and its role, and LCA, and as well as LCA practitioners. And also the report synthesized existing knowledge in order to make recommendation about future LCA practice, but also about future research priorities. We were encouraged by the recognition of this work within FAO, so we mobilized resources to financial resources to look at developing an action research program, a full-fledged program proposal for FAO on healthy diets from sustainable agri-food system using various LCA tools and combined with other methodological approach. So as Sarah can tell you more about it, this work has done a lot of review of research in aligned topics, interview with the key informant people and stakeholders. There were workshops. One of them was held, in fact, a few days ago for people who could attend. They know that it was a very good and informative workshop. And so looking at the roadmap for developing this action research program, we are trying, we will hopefully finalize it and by the end of the year, and we will put it to the donors to see how much and when we can mobilize resources to really officially use LCA for different policy making for sustainable food system. And I'm going to just conclude with a few takeaway messages that I hope I conveyed through this keynote speech. I really wanted to put an emphasis on what we look at when we see and when we work on sustainable agri-food system, and what we are trying to, what we are aspiring to. That is an agri-food system that is resilient, productive, and prosperous, and regenerative, and delivers healthy and nutritious diets. I also wanted to kind of, for all of us, to take away this 3 words, that business as usual is really no longer an option in an increasingly globalized agenda and agri-food system. The challenges that we are facing to achieve, to feed the population sustainably, go beyond production and even beyond one single food value chain. And focusing on one part, we risk overlooking some root causes of the underperformances. We have all the solutions, we know that, but we don't know how they fit together. So that's the issue of trade-offs that I highlighted, and we need data science and information to guide policy making. And for you also, like as LCA researchers, I want to say that we have come to this conclusion that integrated approaches is really the way forward. And this is required to assess the impact of decision and intervention on communities and environment and economy, and see how we can manage these trade-offs. And finally, the most important thing that I wanted to come out of this presentation was that unleashing the power of science and policy is required if we are looking for transformative change or lasting change. We have learned that the complexity of these challenges require collaboration between research communities and development agencies. And I want to really reiterate that FAO stands ready to continue collaboration with the research communities in moving, all the agenda of sustainable agri-food system forward. And with this, I thank you for your attention, and over to you, Sarah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Maryam, for painting that bigger picture. And I think many of us who were involved in the project last year would echo the sentiment that it was a great learning experience and a very positive experience for all of us. And I personally am hoping that we can continue that over the next few years with the next stage of the program. So we've now got time for a bit of a discussion, which could be very wide-ranging given the agenda that Maryam has laid out for us. We'll start with our online participants. Have we got any questions that you would like to ask? If you can indicate in the chat if you would like to. Right, okay. Andreas, would you like to ask your question in person, if you're there? No? Okay, I'll read it out then. How should we take into account the different behaviour of different people from different nations to certain products or ingredients? Oh, is that from the last one? Well, I think there is a general issue which Maryam could actually respond to, which is about the cultural specificity of assessing diets and their nutritional value and environmental impacts, and the significance of that. Would you like to comment on that, Maryam?
In fact, this was as you know, this came up very clearly in all our meeting with when we were developing the reports, that how we kind of look for the behavior and for the context specificity of various approaches. And that's why we, in all the works that we are doing, and even in development of the LCA, of the work on LCA, we are trying to emphasize on the fact that we are coming with a kind of flexible global solution, but it's up to the countries to adopt these solutions that we are bringing to them to their local context. So what data to be collected, what population to target, and how to address various issues, it's really depending on how they see their context. And I don't think there is an answer to this question, except that the localized context-specific data and information, that is what we are trying to promote, to help the policymakers in each country to really design the policies based on their problem and their context. And also, Sarah, I don't blame the audience if they cannot think of any question. I always imagine myself listening to the LCA presentations, and I could not ever ask any question.
Oh no, I'm sure we're going to have questions, and I can see one already at the back there, Melissa. Sure. So can you say who you are and where you're from?
Maryam, Melissa Ho from WWF. Thanks so much.
Hi, Melissa. Nice to see you.
Hi, likewise. Thanks so much. I wanted to pull on a couple themes you had, thinking of FAO's role and how exciting it is that you're adding this assessment tool. You are a fount of information and data, and you mentioned several initiatives that FAO is engaged in, also getting data at the national and subnational level, such as the Food Systems dashboard. Could you speak a little bit about connecting the dots and then allowing and unleashing publicly accessible data coming from the countries, getting at more granularity, either nationally, but even preferably subnationally, on a range of production systems and all the kinds of things that are needed for the folks in this room to do much more granular analysis and much more accurate assessments? Is there an idea of connecting the dots on FAO's role, and then thinking of how and where data sources coming from your organization could serve a higher purpose? Thanks.
Yes, well, thank you, Melissa. Well, the issue of data is, as you know, FAO Statistics is the oldest kind of data platform for food and agriculture, and we have been kind of working on improving it. But the issue of data scarcity is not something that I can say that we have overcome yet. We are trying to kind of work with the government and also businesses, because like what we have, I think one of the biggest gap in data that we have is access to data from the private sector. But then also for the countries is the ability of the authorities and the statistic kind of institutions and the research in the developing countries to really generate quality data, because we receive a lot of data, but they are not quality data sometimes. But I think that we are on the path of, I don't know whether you know about the hand-in-hand initiative, geospatial platform that FAO has, and it's really trying to use a lot of like technology and modeling and to bring exactly what you said, more granularity to data collection at country level. So that it's supposed to be the hand-in-hand initiative and our newly established data lab that that we have started 2 years ago. These are supposed to really like bring kind of upgrade the status of data and information in FAO's platform. And the platforms like food system dashboards are designed more around the indicators. There are various indicators for different sustainability dimensions, like the economic, social, and environmental sustainability. And then if you look at it, so they are indicators, and they are trying to kind of pull out the data that are relevant to those indicators. So those indicators are really kind of trying to capture the essence of the food system and help the trade-off, minimizing the trade-offs. I don't know. I hope I answered your question, but feel free to just drop me a line and we can continue. And I can also involve my colleagues from data labs and statistics.
From online. So Silvana, would you like to ask your question? Can you switch your microphone on and ask the question, Silvana?
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, I enjoyed the presentation very, very much, and I was wondering whether some lessons could have learned worldwide about how decisions that need to be taken at the highest level could actually be expedited. We need people that are taking roles at ministries, and they probably not really aware about the need to make decisions now. Any lesson, any recommendation we could replicate to expedite the process?
Well, I can say two quick things from our experience. Like, for example, UN Food Systems Summit really helped bringing different stakeholders from different parts of a country together. Because normally, as FAO, we work with the ministers of agriculture. But more and more, as I was mentioning, the complexity of all the things like climate change, environment, the social inequality, it is not enough that you start the discussion with only one authority. It really needs to be a consultative process, because also in the decision process, as you may know, there are so many conflicts of interest. So there is a reason why things are not working the way it should be working. And what we found out was that addressing those drivers, those drivers of the conflict, and really looking at it, negotiating and finding a common solution that works for not everyone, because as I said, we always have winners and losers, but for the majority and for the public good. The negotiation and consultative process has been proven very effective from our experience. And the second thing is that just going to a country and telling them this is what is wrong and you have to step up in your policy is never enough. And that's why we need research. That's why we need science, and that's why we need data to help them really see why things are not working. And for example, by not correcting things or correcting the processes, how much we are losing. And that is only through evidence and data that we can show them. So these are the two kind of lessons that I think every organization can start taking part in, because there are others that really is at macro level and it's not in anyone's power, and it needs like much more willingness from many sectors to be achieved. But these two we can do.
Thank you very much. Okay, question here. Oh, you've got the microphone. Do you want? Yes, Shalika, do you want to go? Yep.
My name is Shalika van der Pols. I'm at QUT in Brisbane, Australia. Hello, Maryam. Thank you very much.
Hi, Shalik.
Thank you for a very impressive presentation with very clear messages, as always. Thank you for that. Very powerful. My question sort of builds a little on was discussed in a previous discussion. That is your strong call for collaborative approaches, working together across different disciplines. And I'm very happy, of course, that that's already happening. Say, even at this conference where we now have collaborations between nutrition scientists and NLCA practitioners. You've made that nice link in one of your graphs between sort of individuals, their personal choices. We can see here the conference is a strong emphasis, a tendency to look at individual food choices and individual health. But at the same time, there's so many important issues to address in terms of the big decisions and power dynamics in terms of food systems. And I was wondering if you could perhaps reflect a little on that, should I call it tension, or at least the connectedness between individual health and personal food choices, and at the same time the power dynamics and the system level influences, and also how you see that in FAO, and whether FAO, for example, collaborates on these issues with WHO or with the renewed UN Nutrition Agency on these issues. Thank you.
Well, Jolik, you touched on what I call $1 million question, really. It's it is the issue of the power dynamic came out very strongly also from some of the NGOs and human rights activists in this for the Food System Summit. But it's very interesting because, for example, what we see from our development work perspective is that, okay, we are trying to correct the systems to empower consumers to have healthy food choices. But if private sector is not complying with this and still pumping the market with unhealthy food choices, then how we can and not only unhealthy food choices, but also cheaper one. Because as I said, 3 billion people globally, they don't have access to a healthy diet. I mean, it's the issue of affordability. They cannot afford a healthy diet. So it is really a multi-layer process. It's not only the choice of the consumer, it's availability and affordability of food to the consumers. But just coming back to your question, like, first thing that we always think that, okay, so how we can kind of convince the private sector to move away a little bit from the profitability and focus a little bit also on the public good. And we see that there are signs that many private sector and multinational companies, they are moving towards building this kind of, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say like building this image, but they are trying to do that, and it should be very interesting to see like how they are going to do that at a scale, because what we are seeing is also like a very, very small effort. But as long as they don't step in, I'm not saying that like it's only their responsibility, but also they are like open. If they are open to dialogue, I think that is something that we can work through and really look at what's best for the consumers. But just to end is that I was participating in a meeting with all the big multinational private sector food manufacturer and retail, and what they were saying. It's really something to think about. What they were saying was that you are telling us not to produce unhealthy food or respect the environment or whatever. We are not playing a level ground. There is competition, and we are responsible to kind of tell to our boards that how much profit we are making. If we are doing it, but X company is not doing it, then it's not. It's not the way that we can go. So you have to put regulation and standards to make the ground level for everyone, and that's the only way forward. And we hope to move towards that. There is some efforts going on, even like the Talk Not not like something that we have implemented, on having something like Codex Alimentarius, but for the sustainability. Is it possible? Of course, this is a debate again, like what is the impact on trade? What is the impact on these multiple dimensions? So simply saying personal consumer choice, yes, we are all striving to improve access of consumer to a healthy diet, but without negotiation, without being all on the same page, it is difficult to achieve this goal. But I think that with the right science, with the right information, with the right investment, we are on the right path.
Thank you. We'll just have one more question over here.
Yes, many thanks again for a very interesting presentation. Maybe I'm Anna Slin from Sayari in France. I have a question which might be out of scope, so please tell me. I'm wondering how FAO is addressing adaptation to climate change and to those big environmental issues that are out there. Is it included in your strategy, and how? And yeah, I'm curious about it. Could you provide insights? Thank you.
Yes, very quickly. Thank you for this question. Of course, we are looking. In fact, our core mandate is more on the adaptation than for mitigation. Our sister agencies like UNEP, they are looking into mitigation, but we have a strategy on climate change, which was actually endorsed like 3 months ago. What we do on adaptation is working with the small producers through climate smart agriculture, and also through improving the storage facilities and access to market for small producers to kind of build resilience to the impact of climate change. We also have we also use the adaptation fund for many of our projects, but we have the whole division working on adaptation to climate change. And do write me, and I will write to me, and I will put you in touch if you have more specific question with the colleagues relevant.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to wrap up now. I think, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, that we're very fortunate to have Maryam advocating for the use of LCA in that international policy environment. So thank you, Maryam, for your support and involvement in the NLCA project over the last couple of years, and we're looking forward to working with you further as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
And now we have a coffee break. Thank you.